Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. I'm excited that you're joining us this week. So, in the title, right, I chose that title for the podcast, Changing the Sales Game, because change has to happen for us to improve our career sales game, whatever it might be. So to help you navigate whatever change you're dealing with at this time in your game, whatever that is, again, business, career, etc. In the show notes, you will find my communication style assessment. I have learned in my 6 decades on this earth that guess what? When there's change, we have to really dial in and be super clear with our communication. So hopefully my quiz will help you. You'll get 2 reports. One will spotlight just your natural communication superpowers of how your message kind of lands naturally for the person receiving it. Important to know. Here's the more important report. Your lowest score is typically the score you'll get when you're speaking with someone who's 180 degrees different than how you communicate. I would want to know how my message is landing in those situations, because I find that is really when we can create innovation and good things happen. So again, in the show notes, my link for my gift to you, and I hope it helps you navigate whatever change you're seeking in changing your sales game. Now, to set the stage for my guest and my conversation, the quote I chose is by Mark Roberge. And Mark says, "It's no longer about interrupting, pitching, and closing. It's about listening, diagnosing, and prescribing." Now, lately, I feel like sales trainers, consultants out there speak a lot about building these deep-rooted, very transparent, organic relationships. And this, to me, is not a new concept at all. I've been living that for 40 years. Now, I know when I started 4 decades ago, when I started my sales career, it was in the financial service industry. There are a ton of pitching and pushing with little interest in the person, family, or the organization being sold to. It made me sick to my stomach because it was, to me, that whole bad, icky vibe selling. Not cool. Now, I still see some of the same behavior, except now buyers get the opportunity to do a ton of research, read reviews, and buy from a place of a more confidence due to that research. Where when I started, everything was analog. We didn't have the internet. So what's changed in sales today, and how do we close more deals quicker in this very transparent world where customers have that research available? So I'm glad you asked. Who is my amazing expert? Well, she is back. I think she was on one other show too. I have to ask her when she comes on, but her name is Gail Kasper. Now, Gail is a 2-time TEDx speaker, TV host, sales trainer, and author who has worked with leading and billion-dollar companies nationwide. She has reached millions of people, appearing nationwide on various morning and news shows, and is sharing her strategies around the world. So, Gail, thanks for being on. I'm excited for our conversation.
Connie, I'm excited to go take your assessment on communications. That's so critical today. I don't think that people really get the level of importance when it comes to communication skills.
Yeah.
And we're so busy being behind the cell phone, behind the texting, that we're not getting out there and we're not challenging ourselves to be better. So I can't wait to take your assessment.
Yay.
And learn more about myself, because I believe we all have to be getting better. This isn't just about what other people can get. We got to be improving too.
100%. And thank you for that. And yeah, it's a fun little quiz, and the reports are fun, but they're informative. So thank you for that. I can't wait for you to take it. So is this your first or second time on the show? We've been connected.
My second. I just our conversation was so great the first time. I was begging you, please, can I come back again?
And of course, I said you have an open door policy, because and here's the thing, Gail, and I think it's important. Our philosophy on sales is very much the same, right? It's always about the client. And my tagline is, right, sales should be coming from love, care, and respect for the client. And you have that same vibe. So I love meeting people who approach it a little bit differently than me, right? But we're still philosophically trying to accomplish the same thing. So talk to me first. What do you think is different today in sales? Because you've been doing this a long time too.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. And what I see major difference is something of what you said, which means that people have access to the internet now. They can look up reviews, they can see what's going on, they know the competition more so than they ever had before, which really puts the sales representative in a position that they've really got to step up their game. It's got to be in an extraordinary level. That means with the communication skills, but knowledge of the sales process and implementing it. They should have a structure of the sales call. When
Agreed.
they are uncovering needs, like you said, relationships has always been there. Got to build a relationship. Other than years ago in the 60s with appliance selling, appliance salesmen, and they're focused on the product, it is and has become about the relationship, but even that's at a higher level. And now the relationship isn't just about the customer, but you want the customer to know you. That's where a real relationship is built. You got to know each other. So there's a lot of things that are different now, but they all involve stepping up your game, being better than you ever have before, not taking anything for granted, not just showing up for work and saying, okay, I'm here. Now let me try to sell something. Really always working on yourself.
It's so interesting because I remember again when I started, everything was analog. We didn't have the internet; it didn't exist in the early '80s, and I remember my business development. How do you find leads? I would walk into companies, into office buildings, and on the kiosk, I would write down the business names. Then I would have to go to the library and I would look up those names to see what was the industry, could they potentially use company policies, benefits, stuff like that. And time consuming, right? But I'll tell you, there wasn't as much noise back then. So I don't know that it was necessarily easier to find the leads or harder. It's again, because I've evolved as the technology has evolved. But I thought it was hard back then. But now we have the research at our fingertips, but getting in front of that business owner or that decision maker, I think is even harder, right? Does that make sense?
Oh my God, it's terrible. It's terrible.
There's
I
noise.
mean, I see that with all of my clients. And if they think they're going to send a message through LinkedIn and get somebody's attention, well, you're in the midst of 150 other messages on LinkedIn that other sales reps are doing. So you can't use like just messaging to just say, hey, I'm here. By the way, do you want to meet and talk about something? People don't even know if it's AI that's approaching them anymore.
That's right.
Is,
That's
is
right.
it just an AI message or is there really a person behind this? And what makes this person better than someone else? You don't know. So
Mm,
you technically shut it all off.
that's
So
right.
you better be not only ready to up your plan, up your strategy in front of a customer, but up your strategy in terms of pursuing potential customers, meaning you're constantly doing it. You're constantly trying to get in front of them. You're finding different ways to get in front of them, including networking. Today
Yes,
more than ever, if you're thinking that you're going to be behind your phone, it's not going to happen. Forget
agreed.
it. Get to a networking event, connect with someone because that's where the real relationships begin.
It's still the handshake, man. It's still seeing each other, handshaking. And even if we see each other on Zoom, like you and I, we've never met in person. We have a great relationship because of Zoom. We see body language, we smile, we talk, we're getting to know each other. And that's why the friendship has formed beyond our level of expertise together. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It's the personal connection, and that has not changed in 4 decades. So it's all about it's always about the client for me. All right, now share with everybody the name of your book.
Sell like a cockatoo.
Oh, I love it. All right. So here, I have to ask, why a cockatoo? And where the heck did you make that connection of cockatoo and sales? Because I think this is such a cool story.
Yeah, well, what's amazing is that I always thought, and it's true now more than ever, that sales reps have to be able to dance with the customer. That means they have to be able to read their body language, but that means you better know your own body language really well to be able to read those because you can't be worried about yourself and also worried about the customer. You got to know yourself so that you can be present for the customer. So it all started with this idea that, yeah, you need to be able to dance and move. You need to be able to build momentum with that customer, and that comes from a confidence level. Cockatoos are all about dancing. They love to dance. So I thought to myself, wait a minute, okay, this bird loves to dance. Wait a minute, there are other similarities, meaning sales reps get loud. They get loud when they're fighting for a customer. They get loud when they, are fighting for a commission. They get loud when they make a sale. You can hear them for miles, and it's the same with a cockatoo. Cockatoos also cannot be left alone. They will create havoc. Sales representatives, same thing. You can't just leave them sit in a corner and they're on their cell phone and social media and grabbing a bite, and they're going to go grab breakfast at 9:10, even though they showed up at 9 o'clock. Like, you have to say, hey, what's going on? How are you following up? How are you going to manage your day? What's your plan for the day? How are you
Absolutely.
moving forward? How are you cold calling? Because they'll avoid those things. So there were so many similarities between the cockatoos and the sales reps. And they build 60-year relationships. They're around for a long time. They
Love it.
count on their owner. And when it comes to a sales representative, you know what? We count on our customers, we count on that connection, and we have to work hard and long to build those 60-year relationships. Because if you do, they're coming back over and over again. That's our goal. You want them back over and over again. Like, why do you want to have to get a customer and then all of a sudden, okay, forget about them because you're got to find somebody else? It's so hard to get them to begin with.
Right.
Build those long-term relationships so that they keep coming back to you and they refer you business.
That's the big one. It's the passive income that they bring with them, right? That ripple effect. When you serve them really well and they love you, they send you referrals, and now we have this passive income you didn't even expect or could expect, but it's a nice way to add a little bit of juice, right, to what we're doing. So I agree with that. And the other thing that you made me laugh is the 60-year relationship, right? But really, really, the more our clients know us, the more they understand what our capabilities are. They start using us as a resource because we come top of mind. So I know, like my clients, I had one client call me recently, local bank, knew her. She's been through programs and stuff through the years, and they did an audit. They did a survey of their clients, and this particular bank, the clients love them, their community bank, and they love referring to them. So the CEO was like, whoa, can we leverage this and even get more referrals? So the head of sales called me and she goes, I have a question for, right? Again, top of mind, thought of me, called me. And I said, so I gave her some tips and I said, listen to me, really, really, you can handle this internally because you already have the good vibe. So I gave her some suggestions and I said, you don't want to pay me for this. That's to me that you're throwing money away. Here's how I can help you, right? So I shared
Yeah.
what I could help for them to build a culture, leveraging those referrals, but you don't need me to come and teach you an hour of referrals, right? So she was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So again, it's doing the right thing, sharing how I potentially can help. Now their budget, do they have the budget? And I said, budgets are real. Listen, no pressure from me, but you have a conversation. I didn't know I was going to have that conversation that week. So that's what we're talking about. You have these opportunities that show up because you become top of mind, because you've earned, and I call that a privilege to be thought of like that. For somebody uses me as a resource because they trust me. I don't know, can you do this or can you recommend someone? I love getting those calls because that means I'm relevant to them and they know I know people that I vetted that I could bring to the party as well. So it really, I love the cockatoo. I feel like I'm always dancing with my clients. I just love that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I agree with that connection, that relationship that you have with that customer. Like I know sales representatives that get invited to like 4th of July parties and dinners. And I'm like, man, you're doing your job. You're doing your job. I mean, and they're genuinely interested. They're not just doing it to
Excellent.
do it.
Yeah.
They love them. They love their customers. Customers love them. They're invited over. Like it's like it's the way it should be. It's the way it should be.
And you know what's interesting? I have one client, she also owns a house not far from me on the Jersey Shore. We met through where she was working at another bank. Now she's a CEO of another bank. But anyway, when we met, and I said, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Being friendly. And she said, oh, I'm going down the shore. I said, where? She goes, oh, you're probably not going to know the name. I said, where? We're a mile apart down the shore. Isn't that funny?
Love it. I
So
love
when we're
it.
down, my husband and I go out to dinner with her mom, her boyfriend. We have such a good time, but I can help her more deeply because I know her and her soul, if you will. So I'm
Yes,
able to help her bank now build that culture because I know at the core what she's about and what her vision is. So it makes it so easy to build something when you're that intimate, not in a weird way, but that we really deeply know each other. And it's respectful and it's loving and it's wonderful.
great.
So I agree with you 100%. All right, now I have another question about the cockatoo.
Good.
I think I just love saying cockatoo. But anyway, sales rep become really a full-fledged cockatoo? Like, what are those key skills that you coach your people on, your teams?
First of all, we break down the entire sales process. And when I train, I get so in the weeds, meaning I learn the company at such a high level. I take months to understand the company and what's
Yeah.
working. I take months to understand the products and how they sell currently and where their biggest challenges are with regard to objections, questioning, delivering return on investment if it's a B2B sales opportunity. So I really get into the trenches to figure all of that out. So what we do is we really break down that entire sales process and rebuild it at a higher level. So meaning, okay, what are you currently doing for questioning right now? Where do we need to refine in terms of that questioning? What are you doing with regard to rapport? Because those are the things that make a real cockatoo. What are all the different ways that you look to build a relationship? And even with the questioning, like I have questions that are like the questions that you don't even expect that you can be asking a potential customer, and or the silent question, which is one of the things in the book. So I'll share a secret from the book. The silent question is just how does the customer ask you about you without you volunteering? So without you saying, oh, you're a New England Patriots fan, me too. How do you get the customer to ask about you? Because real relationships are built from both people knowing each other. It never was like that in sales before. It was always, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to get to know them. That customer has to get to know you because that's where values are built, character is built, and connection is built when two people come together. So we take a look at that entire process. We take a look at your value prop. Where does that need to be higher? If you knew the number of times I'm dealing with sales representatives and they're like, well, we're the number one company out there. Okay. Your customer may know that. They don't know the details that got you there. They don't know the details of how you build your products that make you different. They don't know the details of what it took to build the company and get it to where it is. Are you making sure that the customer gets that you're in this space for a specific reason, that you have this culture for a reason, that the company maybe was built from 3 people that now has 12,500 people? That in itself says strategic, sustainable growth. So we take a look in detail and we elevate the value prop, and then we really break down the objections piece. I mean, I have a cool process in the book for objections, which means you have to have 3 comebacks for every objection. In other words, before you even consider negotiating, you've got to have at least 3 comebacks. You have to be in a spot that you believe in what you're doing, and there's so much value there that you're not just willing to relinquish it because that's what the customer wants you to do. You got to fight for it first. That's true negotiation, being willing to get into that fight, into that battle. So cockatoos are just doing everything so high, such a high level that the customer can't say no. Like you've got so much confidence in yourself. That's a true cockatoo. I'm confident myself. Like I'm not going to lead you in the wrong direction. I genuinely care about you. As a matter of fact, I don't want your business if it's not right for you.
That's right.
I don't want it.
That's right.
Let's make sure this is the right mix, because otherwise, what I understand, we'll have you go someplace else. I have a couple of referrals for you. I may not be right.
That's
So
right.
it's willing to do that takeaway, which is managing an objection in itself. Willing to basically say, I don't know if I'm right for you.
Yeah, I love it. Now you mentioned body language before. I'm huge on body language. I teach body language in every class. My communication, right? And I teach them as they're doing something or saying something, I'll pause and say, okay, everybody, I'm gonna dial in here. That was a very, depending if they use DISC, predictive index, or my communication style, right? Some companies already are embedded with predictive index, DISC, these other behavioral models, which are cool because I'm certified in them too, right? So when I go in, I go, okay, this was very formal on the predictive index, or that was a very D statement, right? So I go and I go, no judgment and no criticism, but understand that's where that trigger came from, right? It's how our brain is wired. But now if you're speaking to a client, how is the S perceiving that D response, right? So you can dial in. So I'm all about, right? And by the way, the act of listening, I think, is very much attached to the body language. So talk to me about what's the biggest mistake you see with salespeople with the body language and tone of voice?
They want to keep talking. They just want to keep talking. They might see something because our brains pick up when body language is off. And instead of addressing it, so slow down the process and say, okay, wait a minute here. I just saw something that seemed off. Ask a question. Where are you at there? Oh, wait a minute. Did I say something that didn't make sense? Or do you have a question? Seems like you might have a question. But to really stop the process, because if they lean back out of nowhere, is it because they're just getting comfortable, or is it because they're disinterested? Like you want to know where their head is at every given moment. That's why you can't be worrying about you. So I love the fact, Connie, that you're training on body language. You want people to be so comfortable with their own and doing the right things.
That's right.
Like the last thing you need is somebody that's sitting at a table, like, and I've seen sales reps do this. They're like talking to somebody and they're covering them. It's like, what are you doing? It's a
Oh,
nervous reaction. It's
yeah.
stress on their part. Get rid of it. There shouldn't be any barrier between you and that customer.
Visually or otherwise. It was funny. I was teaching a class yesterday on Zoom, and one of the gentlemen, he leaned in. And so I'm always watching even on Zoom, right? And I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, Jeff," I said, "you have a question." And he burst out laughing because I teach body language, right? Every class I talk about it. "Oh, did you see what he just did?" Right? So
Yeah,
that's how we learn the cues, right?
that's
So
exactly right.
he giggles and he goes, "I did lean in, but I don't have a question." He goes, "Man, you're good." And, giggle, giggle. And then one of the women in the class said, "Con, how did you?" I said, "It's subtle. It's often subtle." And I said, and then she says, "Okay, so let's say he sat back, right? What would you have done?" And I would have said, "Oh, wait, Jeff, you just sat back." I said, "Something just happened. Your body language shifted for me. Talk to me. What's going
Right,
on? I'm not going to keep going. You have a question. What happened?" And
right,
she said,
right.
"You would?" And I said, "Yes," because like, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to keep going. You've lost the sale at that point because
Yes.
something is disconnected, and the body language does not lie. So it's so fascinating. Tone of voice. How do you bring tone of voice into it as well? I'm curious.
Tone of voice for me, number one, confidence. Lower pitch voice is authority and confidence. So it
Mm,
doesn't change the tone of your voice, but it does mean that you want to sound like you know what you're talking about. Because the customer is going to buy into that confidence level. When you sound like you know, hey, look, no, customer might be like, I want to do A, B, and C. Well, wait a minute, I don't know if you want to do A, B, and C. You have a different option for them. So it's a confidence level that comes through with that. Or you're talking about the product and you're actually excited. I cannot stand when I see a sales rep, and I love you, sales representatives. I love all of you, but I cannot stand it if you're talking about something and you're monotone. If you're
mm,
not excited about the product, why should I be? If
that
you're not excited about your company, why should I be? Why am I
absolutely
here?
right.
If you don't believe in what it is you're doing, then why am I buying from you?
Yeah, I love
That's
it. I
bottom
love it.
line.
Yeah, body language and tone can't hide it, kids. So,
Mm-mm.
and I always say this is one of my standard lines. Everybody that knows me is probably giggling because they've heard me say this probably a bazillion times. Your body's speaking volumes. Do you know what it's saying? Because if you
Yeah.
don't know what it's saying, subconsciously the client's feeling it. So you better tap into that energy because something's going on. And you want to make sure that they always feel welcome, gracious, loved by you, right? That loving energy is coming through, as well as I'm competent and confident. And that all comes through your body language. All right,
And
I
your
have
tone of voice. You
and
just hit
tone.
on
Yeah.
something with care, like
Yeah.
to sound like you care.
Yeah. And what the
And
statistics, right, Gail? 55% is body language, 38% is tone. So 93% of our communication isn't the words we choose,
nope.
that tone of voice, body language playing off each other.
And what are we always communicating with? The words
Yeah.
7%. And
Yeah.
you're thinking that the 7% is going to sell someone.
Yeah.
What
No
are
way.
you thinking?
Yeah.
Going to
Yeah.
send a LinkedIn message and people are going to be like, oh, awesome, perfect timing. I want to buy. Please, if that happens out there, let me know because I want to learn from you.
Exactly. That's divine timing. I call that, right? Be it just right
Yes.
place, right time by accident. That doesn't happen often. All
No,
right, now go ahead. You have something else to say because I have another
no,
question.
I'm
All
good.
right.
Go with
And
your
I'm
question.
with you on this next question. I know you don't believe either that salespeople should ask, "What's your concern?" Why? I want to hear your weigh in on this because I know why I don't like it, but why don't you like that? What's your concern? What are you concerned about?
All right. So in case any of your viewers or listeners were not seeing my body language with that, but I just like stuck my tongue out and rolled my eyes at that comment. I do not like what you're concerned because you're setting people up to have one. It's an emotional reaction. What's your concern? Like, first of all, you believe in your company, you believe in your product. That thought wouldn't even run through your head as a sales rep. You wouldn't even, you really believe in everything that you're doing. You're not going to ask somebody about a concern. You're not going to do it. You might say, what happened? Wait a minute. Did I say something off? What are you thinking? Those are all logical questions. Concern is an emotional question. Why would we ask an emotional question that's going to drag them in deeper? Ask a logical question. Wait a minute. Your body language, I just saw something. What are you thinking? What's going through your mind? Those are all logical. Concern cannot stand it because you're digging yourself a hole. And supposedly you believe 1,000% in what you're offering. If you really do believe that, like I said, you're not going to ask about a concern. You're not.
And concern is a negative word. It's a charged, negative, emotional word versus, and here's an alternative. You just gave a couple, and here's another alternative that I share all the time. Instead of saying what's your concern, say, you know what? For me to do the best job for you, we're gonna have a conversation. First, tell me about your situation. What's going on? Good, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, right? But what's your situation? And then I'll be able to understand how I can customize my solution for you. There's no
Right.
concerns here. The other the phraseology, and I'd like you to weigh in on this one too. Pain point. I hate that phraseology. For
Oh, I hate it too. Oh,
okay,
dear God.
like we're dialing, what's their pain point? See, this is the marketing stuff. Maybe I'm just a bad marketer, but I don't believe we have pain points. I believe in what is the situation that's causing you distress or causing your business not to thrive or causing your employees to not get on board. Again, it goes back to give me the facts of the situation. And if I
Yeah.
fully understand, then I'll be able to see what the pain point, and it's not it's a glitch. There's something glitching in that situation or
System.
how things are
Yep.
set up. But pain point, and the other one is what keeps you up at night. I don't know where these salespeople have come up with these questions.
I,
Another one I
I,
don't believe in asking.
I've dealt with some people that are coaches that, so you got to figure out the pain points. You got to ask them what keeps them up at night. And it's like they learned it somewhere and that's what they stick to. They're not, I'm a salesperson. Okay. I'm first and foremost, I am a salesperson. And I want to diss any coach or anybody else out there
Yeah,
that uses them, but I am a salesperson. So I am designed to feel and understand what's going on with that customer.
right.
And that's what I want the sales rep to do, not understand their pain point. Like I'm not going to use, those phrases that are just, let's get down to what's going on with that customer, what's happening. And I want to just do a side note here. When I'm talking about what you're concerned and I don't like it on my end, part of that is in the objection process because people will be like, well, I don't know. I got to think about it. And then the sales rep will say, well, what's your concern? So there's a space that I hear that over and over again in objections that I would say, please don't do it. You never give in to concerns on the back end. I agree with what you're saying on the front end. When we're questioning, we want to hear what's going on, what's happening here. Tell me, like, you want to get to the good, the bad, the ugly. If there is a return on investment element that you know that you can satisfy an issue, awesome. But concerns, like we got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and on the objection side, right? The right phraseology is, we just discussed XYZ. You shared with me XYZ. I believe it's a fit. Give me the benefit, give the benefit back. Say you're not seeing that or you're not understanding what, and I always take ownership. What didn't I explain or what aren't you seeing? I see it clearly. You don't. That's on me. Can we dig in just another few minutes? I fully want to understand. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I misunderstood. It is what it is, right? We're human. We do
Yep.
miscommunicate sometimes. Or saying, there's a misunderstanding. I would never say you misunderstood me, but I would say there's a
Yep.
misunderstanding. Let me go through it again. Now I'm
Yep.
on the same page. I got you.
And you know what I love about what you're doing, Connie, is I love that anytime you drag out that conversation in objections, meaning, okay, wait a minute, we're on a different page here. Either I missed something, something happened. Anytime you drag it out, you are now negotiating. You are fighting for the business.
Yeah.
You're not just like, oh, okay, you don't like the price. Well, let me talk to my boss. Let me call them. Let me see what we can do. No, you're actually fighting for it, meaning they have to come up with answers. If they're just hoping that you drop a price, they're not going to be able to do that because you're trying to figure it out. So I love that. You're strengthening the negotiation when you do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Right. And again, it has to be about the customer. We have to make it relevant and understandable for them. Doesn't mean if we understand it, who cares? They have to understand what we're saying. And the other thing I say too in objections, when you use their words, even if they say I'm excited or I'm really terrified about if this happens, right? So I could say, listen, I know you said you're terrified. Don't parrot. but we cockatoo. We don't want to
Cockatoo.
parrot them,
Yes.
but we do want to make sure they understand that we heard them and understand. So again, I can use their phraseology. I know you're terrified about the situation, and the remedy that or the recommendation I'm making is going to help specifically with that. Whether I understand what they mean by terrified, they're hearing their words come out of my mouth and they're saying, oh my gosh, she gets me. She heard me. She understands me. You build a little bit of trust as soon as you do that. So that's important during the objections too. Bring their words back into it so they know you actually heard them, and then reiterate what that solution is to that very charged word that they gave you, right, during the conversation.
I
These are,
love that.
yeah,
I
all
love
these things
that.
go on. Yeah, yeah. It's
People think, you just come in and you sell. I like, oh my God, like there's so much involved with the process, and you really, you can never stop learning. You can never stop training. You
true.
can never stop becoming better because you're human too.
Yeah.
You have bad nights, you don't sleep, you show up for work, maybe you're running late, you didn't grab breakfast, you're now at the office and a customer's there. And you've got to keep it together and be able to listen and intently and not miss anything. And it's not easy. It is not an easy job.
And I know you believe this too, right? Sales is probably one of the most emotional jobs that exists because we're dealing with humans every day. It's not, yeah, we have paperwork and admin crap, but 80% of our job, right, if we're in sales, is to sell and just palm to palm. We got to talk meetings, right? It's that human, it's very emotional. What do you think when it comes to the sales today? Where do you see those reps kind of falter with that emotional piece?
Well, I think rejection is always number one, meaning they're dealing with, the no's, they're dealing with, okay, well, like this potential customer told me to call him at 10 o'clock today, and they didn't pick up the phone. And now it's okay, they're on my list to do the follow-up and, to track them and to get back in touch with them. So it's a constant roller coaster, that you
Yes.
are getting hit in the face over and over again during the course of the day, but you still have to maintain that momentum. And when you are sitting with a customer, even though you went through 5 punches in the face 45 minutes ago, you have to be at your best. So that's where I see like the biggest challenge is maintaining a logical perspective in the face of all the other crap that's going on. You've got to be logical, you've got to have momentum, and you've got to make sure that you've got a plan so that you can stay on track with that plan.
Yeah, and the plan has to work so that, people say, I'm going to change everything. Stop. You were successful for 10 years. You're in a slump for 6 months. Well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's look at it, dial into it, and let's see where maybe we need to perfect, and perfection's a bad word, but where we need to reiterate, fix, right? Because things change, life changes, automation, all these things are changing. Maybe we just need to go in and dial in a little tighter, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? That I know you see that too. I'm in a slump. I'm going to do everything differently. Stop. No.
Yeah, I'm not meant to be in this business. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be in sales. And you would know, but you've been number one for 3 years, and now you're just like, it wasn't a good month.
Yeah.
Let's back off.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Let's just breathe. Everything is going to be fine.
Yeah, emotions are real, and honor them. That's the other thing. Feel what you're feeling, but go back to the drawing board and say, all right, let me go back to basics. I know what I was doing working. Let me keep doing it, but let me refine. Maybe my approach needs a little refinement. That's all. So yeah, I giggle at that one too. It's interesting, but humans are emotional beings. They buy on emotion, but we have to make sure that we approach them with a logical response to the emotional charge or whatever the situation is that they're facing, right?
Exactly right.
Got to be a little blend going on there.
Yep.
My friend, we are out of time. So here's the deal. I think you should buy the book, but please go to Gail's website. It's gailkasper.com. I will put it all in the show notes. Email Gail if you have a specific question for her, gail@gailkasper.com. And I know you have a free gift. Can you tell everybody what that is?
Yeah, I have a free download for all y'all that are listening. It's called The 3 Most Overlooked Sales Tools That Close More Deals. So I know you're going to put the link in the show notes.
I will.
It's fantastic. It is yours. Enjoy. If you have questions, let me know. You've got my email address. I just appreciate your time. And Connie, I appreciate you so much. It's so wonderful to see you again.
I just love meeting a kindred spirit that gets what I'm saying, where they go, what? You totally get it. So I do love it. The other thing, Gail, the book
Yes.
If they go to your website, can they find the book on that
They
website?
can find the book there. They can go to Amazon. They can find it there. They can go to Barnes and Noble. They can find it there. So if they Google it, Sell Like a Cockatoo, Gail Kasper, they'll be able to pick it up.
Sell like a cockatoo. Christmas is coming. Buy it for somebody that you know that's in sales or a sales leader out there. Put it in their stocking. It's just such a it's a fun title of a book, but the content is real to really help you become more confident with your sales objectives and your sales goals, et cetera. So, Gail, thank you so much for being on, sharing your zone of genius, and having a little fun with me today, and rolling your eyes at that one. What is your concern? If guys got to go watch on YouTube if you're on Apple or Spotify or one of the other platforms, because it was like there was her body language spoke loud and clear without her even having to answer. So I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, my friend, for being on. I truly enjoy our time together. Thanks again.
Me too, Connie. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover, no matter where you are on changing your sales game. Truly, my guests and I care, number one, but I really hope that the information, the stories, our little chuckles with things that we share with you, that you're able to take them and put them into practice. Information's a beautiful thing. Learning is a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, though, it's just information in your brain. It's not really helping you. Put it into action, man, oh man. Magic, I promise you, will happen on the back end. So again, read the book, take a couple of the tips. Don't ask what's your concern. Go back and listen to the episode. If there was something specific Gail or I said that you think, oh, I like how they said that, or, oh, I have to go back and watch Gail's body language. Again, dial into, and then you fill in the blank. But I promise you, take the information, implement it in your life and your sales life, right? Or your how you're communicating. And I promise you, change will happen organically and wonderfully for you. And that, I hope, is truly my gift and my wish for doing the show. I love you all. I'm really excited when you tune in. So thank you for tuning in to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I love you all. Have an amazing week. And I promise I will see you next week. Have a good one, everybody.